So thank you for being here. I'd like to start by having you both introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about the courses that you teach in which you're using OER, which stands for Open Education Resources, materials in your classes.
So thank you. My name is Alejandra Bronfman, and I am professor and chair of the Department of Latin American, Caribbean, and Latino Studies. And I teach a whole bunch of courses. With Jesús, we teach ALCS 300, which is the methods course for the majors. And then I teach a range of courses, including ALCS 100, 203, which is Afro-Latin America. I teach the Caribbean survey. I teach the Caribbean seminar for graduate students. I teach a whole bunch of things.
Great. Very interesting.
Yeah, my name is Jesús Alonso-Regalado, and I'm the Xavier Librarian for 3 departments: history, languages, cultures, and literatures, and Latin American studies, which is, Latin American, Caribbean, and US Latino studies. And basically, as a librarian, what I provide is information literacy in different forms. In this case, for LACS, what I do is that we actually co-teach a methods class, as Alejandra said, where we have both teaching faculty and a library faculty teaching that course.
Very good. So I understand that your materials are free for students taking these OER classes that you're teaching. So how did you go about developing these materials and making them free, and how much do you think that that's saving a student on a regular basis when they're taking your class?
So I think that the reason that the materials are free is actually in part due to the library and the resources that they provide, because a lot of the things that I assign are readings. They're chapters from books, or they're articles that are available, or they are newspaper articles, or let's look at this database. So a lot of that stuff, if you go through the library website, which I have to tell my students to do a lot, is free for them. Mm-hmm. And I think that we were always sort of we've been headed in that direction for a long time. Sometimes it's just easier for students to do because they don't always have access to the library. They can't always afford books. Mm-hmm. And so more and more that sort of became the direction, sort of the coming together of more and more things being available online, and then the realization that for students it was actually much more cost effective to do it that way. And then certainly the pandemic helped, right? Because we were all at home, mm-hmm. and it was harder to get access to borrowing books or even ordering stuff took a long time, and so it sort of has been steadily headed in that direction.
So I see faculty that are involved in developing OERs as makers and creators. Have you developed a lot of your own materials? I know you talked about some of the materials that the library has, which is great, but you must have spent some time making and creating and developing your own materials. And so what was that process like for you?
Yeah, for this course, for the methods class, we designed this course many years ago, maybe it was 2016, 2017, something like that. And basically, the main focus of the class is on the student. So we use a flipped classroom model. I don't know if you are familiar with flipped classroom. It's basically you put the student in the center, mm-hmm. and then you provide a lot of materials they have to prepare before class, so that we have more time in class for discussions, identify maybe issues they have with some of the content, etc. So the materials we created was with that in mind. So the students have to work on a research proposal, and what we provide every week is a series of worksheets that the students have to work, and we did those from scratch. And so they come to class, and then we have more time to work on, be able to help them with, whatever they have problems with, or more like teamwork, mm-hmm. or other activities that are more like interactive.
Yes.
So I think it was basically, I would say the worksheets, and then we use like different tools so that they learn different skills. For example, last year we started using Voicethread. I don't know if you're familiar with that tool.
Voicethread?
Yeah.
I'm not familiar with that tool.
Okay, so that is a tool that allows students to share comments. In our case, they have to watch a video, and then they share comments and they have to create either an audio file or a video file to share the comments.
Okay.
So in that way, students are learning like oral discourse skills and not only writing. So that's one of the tools we use.
So it sounds like there's a lot more interactivity with the students and even with yourselves. Do you notice a difference from sort of the traditional teaching methods, that there's maybe more interaction with email or quizzes or instant feedback and the class is participating more? Maybe it's in a little bit of a different environment, but it sounds like there's a lot of interactivity, especially with, also recording this, using this Voicethread to provide comments on materials that you're learning about.
Yeah, I think that's right. And I think that, again, I know that I've been aiming to teach in a much more interactive way for years, maybe 10 years or something. And so the focus has been increasingly on, not on sort of the model of the professor standing up in front of the class lecturing to students, which has been proven to be less and less effective, and more on a kind of interactive base. And that's where the materials and the readings come in, because they can they have them in front of them, they can sort of refer to them, they have their own opinion that they've formed, and the idea is for them to sort of interact and produce knowledge as much as consume it.
And for some students, it might be easier for them to interact that way than that traditional method of kind of raising your hand and asking a question or going to see a professor for office hours. At least that's like my thoughts.
Well, I think that for some students, I get sometimes a little bit of hesitation, right? Because they may have been, high school may have been all, much more kind of lecture-y or something like that. But once they jump in, once they realize that we're not scary and we're just there to help them, then they seem to sort of really enjoy it and really sort of open their sort of eyes to what they can do to sort of realize their capacity, and they get a lot more confident in their own abilities and in their own sense of, okay, this matters to me, so this is going to matter to everybody out there, because I'm gonna do something with it.
Right. So I understand it would seem like some of your materials are openly licensed, like the ones you make and create.
They're not openly licensed.
They are not.
No.
So you do not have any open licensed materials. Do you find there's an advantage or a disadvantage to that?
Well, the thing is that, and I would like to kind of, and I know we are in like Open Access or OER week, right?
Yeah.
I would like to kind of revisit the way we look at OERs and kind of let's go to the basics. What do I think about the basics? Well, I think the first and foremost, most important topic should be on making sure the students have free access to the materials for a class, meaning zero cost or low cost. Okay, that concept is bigger than OER. So what I mean is that some low materials can be OER not. So that was our first kind of intention and goal, which we achieve. And I think that OERs, it's more important when you want to share with the community at large, meaning with faculty in offering courses nationally or internationally.
Yep.
Because I mean, you're familiarized with the 5 Rs, right?
Yes.
So basically it's reuse, remix, and all that.
Yep.
Okay, all that means more to potential faculty that want to reuse our materials than to our students. What actually students care is to make sure they don't have to pay for the materials.
Right.
All these other concepts connected with the 5 Rs focuses more on the pedagogy and also more on sharing with other faculty in other places. So as a second stage, we might want to explore that, and we have some ideas about how we can explore our course in terms of OER. But I think, and I'm thinking also for a lot of faculty that maybe are reluctant when they're hearing about OERs, I think the main reason is because I think the conversation should start with thinking how we can make materials free for our students.
Yes.
And sometimes jargon, using a lot of jargon, doesn't help to the faculty to actually jump in and get engaged. So I wish we will be able to reframe the conversation.
I understand what you're saying, because that's a great segue into this next question I have, which is what kind of information and resources do you need to actually go from that low cost, no cost, which I do believe should be the driving priority here, into developing these, I guess now we're using the jargon, the OER materials, the specific OER materials?
So yeah, that's a great question because I have to admit that apart from Jesús, we don't hear about OER very much. It's not something that we are cognizant of necessarily when we're preparing our courses, when we are sort of figuring out what to teach and how to organize our courses. And so the first thing we need is, I think exactly maybe what we're doing here is a lot more information and interaction and communication between the library and the administration, which I guess is interested in OER, and the departments and the teaching staff. And the second is time, time and resources to put these materials together. It's a lot of work, and if you want to do it well, we need some time, and we need, it needs to, and just the resources, right? The assistants or whatever it is, to put these together. And then finally, and Jesús and I have had conversations about this, we don't get rewarded if we do OER or low cost, right? It doesn't kind of come up in our faculty activity reports, which goes up the administration to sort of, this is how resources get distributed. So we need, I suppose, we need some attention to this, and we need it to be a legitimate accomplishment, just like any other publication or just like any other presentation at a conference or anything like that.
Yeah, let me add to that.
Yeah.
Like for promotion and tenure cases, our hope will be that the administration will value more OERs. So when you get into promotion tenure cases, that's actually valued. Because, as Alejandra said, involves time, effort. We're already, faculty are already extremely busy. Mm-hmm. So you have to provide resources and also financial resources to create those OER. If you want me to go a little bit more technical, what do we will need? Well, we need, for example, software to make materials that are interactive. Mm-hmm. And I know that, for example, SUNY collaborates with Lumen Circles.
Yes, I've heard of Lumen.
So Lumen Circles provide that kind of software. So, we know, what steps we will need, but all that involves time, effort, I think recognition for the faculty or the librarians, both not only in terms of recognition, in terms of promotion, but also financial help. So I think some kind of economic incentive will also help.
Is there any advice you would give to potential faculty members, or do we really need to wait to see the administration take OER a little bit more seriously?
I think that actually a lot of us are already doing this, having low cost materials, probably partly because of the pandemic or just because of the way that teaching goes. And so, just a couple of weeks ago, we, because of an email by Jesús, who is, the leader in so many things, I went through all of our courses and I said, okay, who is teaching these courses that has, low cost materials? And so suddenly we were able to check them all. We just had never done that because we, it hadn't, my former head didn't do it, and
so was that easy for you to identify?
Really easy.
And is it easy for students to identify?
Well,
because
now it is.
Okay, that's good too.
So
that's
when
good
they
to
register
know.
for courses, it shows up as a low cost. I guess it's a conflated category, right? So
I actually will like that label will be more clear. Okay. Like when a student goes to register to a course, I think the label says OER-low cost materials. Like just looking at the academic department level to look at what courses can be low cost is not very time consuming, and right?
Not at all.
Yeah, and it's a first step.
It's a very quick process.
And it's probably we're going to start to see more and more students want to sign up for classes that are low cost. Textbooks are expensive. Yeah. So that's going to save them money, and that might encourage faculty who maybe aren't doing low cost or no cost to do more low cost or no cost, which is a nice segue into my final question with you, which is about libraries. Let's talk about libraries and librarians. Jesús, you're a librarian, and what librarians, they've been involved with OER.
Yeah, just connected to what you just said, low cost or zero cost doesn't have to be necessarily the first step and OER the next step. They can be live together.
Okay.
So it can be, for some classes might make sense to develop an OER, for others might just make sense to have for example, like many classes, especially some of the graduate classes, especially their seminars, students have to do required readings. And some required readings, I mean, the library can provide unlimited access as ebooks for those required readings. But then for that particular class, the OER model might not work. But the zero-cost model, where the library actually pays for those unlimited books,
Yes.
might make sense. So I don't think it's like, this is the first step, this is the second step. It's like, let's sit down together and for this particular course, what does it make sense?
Yes.
And for this one, so it's like OER, yes, but OER is not the remedy of the solution for everything. Right. But we have to make sure we provide access to the students that is affordable. I think that's the key message, and the library, we're here to help.
Yes.
I mean, we have people that are experts in information literacy. I mean, the main mission of an academic library is to support teaching, learning, and research. And that's what we do. And so, I mean, anything we can do to support the departments and support the students, right?
Right.
And, but it's essential to work as a team. So I think faculty, librarian collaborations is essential here. And that's what we're trying to do, right?
Yes.
Alejandra?
And it really, I think it enhances everybody. I don't know if it enhances your life. It certainly makes my life much more interesting and fun and fascinating to collaborate with somebody like Jesús and to sort of think of the library as this, you know, this incredible resource. I mean, if you think of the idea of the library, right? It's a place where there's all of this stuff that you guys just like hand it out, you know, like, here, take it. Bring it back, but take it, you know? And
exactly.
Like, how many institutions in the world, or, you know, in the United States or in the world, do that, right?
Not many.
And what's also really fascinating to watch, and I think that UAlbany's done a great job, is that, you know, libraries have for hundreds of thousands of years been places where books lived, right? But now the sort of the digital dimension and the ways that, you know, the transition and the sort of the balance of what's online and what's not, and moving towards thinking about information circulation and information literacy and, you know, what's available and what's not, and all of those kinds of issues that they're more and more salient, the issues of sort of copyright, all of that kind of stuff, more and more kind of, there's more and more stuff about it. There's no way you can say that a library, you know, is a kind of moribund or like old-fashioned.
Oh, yeah,
like
no.
libraries lead, right?
They do.
They don't follow, and
There's
so they
so
lead.
much going on in libraries.
And just, you know, recognizing that, and, you know, I get, my students laugh at me because I get very, you know, impassioned about libraries and, you know, what's peer reviewed and what's not and all of this kind of stuff. They laugh at me, but I don't care. So, because it's important, and so
Getting the message out. Some, you know, for some of
Yeah.
those students, it's really resonating, and
Yeah.
maybe they're using the library more as a result and are
Yeah.
starting to see what you see, that
Yeah.
they really are a place where you can connect, disseminate, repositories, bring people together, and I can see how they're starting to lead or work together with faculty on open education resources. Is there anything you'd like to add? Anything that we didn't touch upon that you think is important that we touch upon?
I think, I mean, thinking about our audience here, I think the most important message is that start small. I mean, start like thinking, okay, what do we want to achieve here? Do we want to make sure, I mean, students have access to these and in an affordable way? Well, let's go that way. I think that many people, when they hear OER, I think their first reaction might be more work, and I already have a lot of work, right?
Yeah.
So I think we have to start the conversation like in a very more like organic way and say, okay, what do our students need, and let's see what we can get done. And then, of course, if I can dream,
Yeah.
of course, I would like more support from
Yes.
from the administration to make sure that actually we provide more, even better materials. So once we cover the affordability, then let's focus also on the quality, and let's do robust OERs and all that. But for that, I mean, we need, of course, recognition, time, funding, etc. So, but I think, I mean, many faculty will be willing to work with that if we get the support.